In this song, Jesse Wells does a really amazing job of reminding everyone who the real enemy is. In this sort of song, he makes a point to tell people it's not going to matter what side you're on right now. He uses the examples all the Baptists and the Catholics, all the Marxists and the fascists, all the cowboys and the hippies. And then finally, the last comparison he makes is, and finally he says, it won't matter if you're a neocon or MAGA Democrat, which is a banger line, let me just say. In this, listeners of the song are really forced to question who the real enemy, or in the case of the song, the devil is. And I think we have a few options. I think it's overall broad terms. Sorry, I forgot my microphone. Hopefully that's better. So the real enemy that listeners are forced to kind of think about is, who is this big devil if it's not one side or another? And I think that's something that Jesse Wells does incredibly well with all of his music, is he creates moments for people to really kind of come together. And that is what I want to bring up with this book, Look. The author of this book does an amazing job of bringing people into the story of war and really having these kind of reality checks throughout the entire story. And I think that Wells is doing that in a kind of way. They're both looking at realities of war, just from very opposite ends of the spectrum. We have one who is actively in war, actively someone who is trying to escape war, and then we have someone who is sitting in art and in privilege. And that is not to say that Jesse Wells is doing anything wrong, because he's not. It's just their situations are very different, and I want to point it out. Jesse Wells is sitting in this artistic privilege that he's able to have, and he gains a voice. And then the author of Look is seeing life through war's eyes. And I think both perspectives are equally as important in the conversation and bringing it all together. Where Look sees a more intimate connection of everyday life during war, Wells emphasizes everyday people and their reactions to war, especially in the American system, where politically we're so divided that it's frankly ridiculous. It's too much. There's too much separation going on right now. And once everything goes to shit, or if everything goes to shit, maybe let me be optimistic here, Jesse Wells is really kind of pointing out, oh, you're not gonna care about these differences once the worst comes to worst. Like, if all of our fears are going to come true, which at the moment I kind of think we're looking that way, but if all of our fears are going to come true, then you're not going to care about one side or another. You're not going to care about Republican or Democrat. And then eventually everyone's going to get on the same page about human rights, hopefully. And it's really not going to matter, because this bigger building problem is the theme. And then I wanted to bring up things said and unsaid as well. I want to kind of point out the moments of silence that Look and Red both kind of have. We're starting to see the silent spaces of war, the kind of things that generally went unsaid before, but if we can get there without having to go through war, which I think is Jesse Wells's point, then that's all the better, right? And living in these kind of silent spaces, things that went unsaid before, makes it so that artists are much more relatable. And if we can get there without going through war, I think that would be better. And so I think that that's Wells's point as well. Going through this song and thinking about the smaller little things in life that kind of become bigger and start to build up, and eventually turns into this huge petty disagreement. I think Wells is pointing out here, and in Look, both, having these moments of everyday life and moments of silence and kind of sitting in them is what allows humans to remain human. And so watching as Wells goes through this list of things with Jesse Wells's personification of the color red, we are able to see the stark kind of differences and how changed people really became as a result of these kind of things. I don't think that's something that... It's clear in Red that Wells is talking about Donald Trump and talking about the actions that happened after the inaugural events of Donald Trump's candidacy in January 2026. In this section of the song, I really believe that Elon Musk is a representative of capitalism. Fuck him. Video over.